I have faith the voters of the USA will do the right thing. They will vote to the best of their ability, and they will vote as geniuses. The results are in. Libertarian have their first president of the USA! Hell yeah! This is the best election since the original Republican. In next place was Robert F. Kennedy. This success is so going to help his good causes next time, and in the years before. In third place was Claudia De La Cruz. So Libertarians are going to have to be responsible to keep their power because they have competition. Constitution Party didn't win, but they did get some voice out. Enough to make school optional. That's the next thing to happen after taxes are optional. More news for the next 4 years. Ukraine kills hundreds of thousands of Russians in a victorious massacre. A typhoon has devastated China, killing thousands of people and costing billions of yuan. Democratic People's Republic of Korea has accidentally nuked themselves, and Iran has suffered the biggest tsunami experienced by humans, breaking their economy so much that not only do they lose the war, but their civilization collapses. This is going to be the best 4 years ever! This is it, the highlight of the century. It's going to be ages before it's better than this. Republicans win the president. Second place, Democrats, then Robert F. Kennedy, Green, Libertarian, Cornell West, Constitution, Claudia De La Cruz. Okay, for those last two, Claudia was more popular, but for state-by-state victories, she lost. This ranking is depending on how you measure it. I only counted them against each other in states they were both in. If you want the totals, taking into account the states they were absent in, ask me. If you take the percents of the votes that each candidate got from each state, then add all the percents they got from every state together, this is what each candidate has built up to. Even the third place's total is dwarfed by the single state that the first two performed best in. No adding states together needed. If you take the national total number of votes each candidate received, this is what they have to show for themselves. All of third place onwards is dwarfed by what either of the top two got from the best single state alone. On average, for every state they were a candidate in, so their total percents added together, divided by how many states they were an option in, this is the average scores. None of them even beat the top two in the single state they were worst in, never mind standing a chance against the top two's state averages. For this bit, I have looked at all the states where two candidates competed against each other in and counted the times one beat the other versus the times the other beat that one, to see who beats who in a federal election. Here are the scores. Robert Kennedy beats Green, 17-5. Green beats Libertarian, 22-14. Libertarian beats Constitution, 14-0. Constitution beats Claudia De La Cruz, 5-4. The USA made up their own mind, but I want to congratulate the top 3 states who took my advice and voted the most for Libertarian. In third place, with 0.9%, is a tie between Alaska, Maine, and Utah. Second place, with 1.6%, one I have a soft heart for, Wyoming. And well done to first place, with 1.7%, North Dakota. But even they didn't like Libertarians nearly as much as they liked Republican and Democrat. A lot of people like filming in their cars. I don't have a car, but here is an old family one which hasn't been driven in a very long time. So today, it's going to have some use as a set. I'm not angry. I don't know if I'm disappointed. So this isn't going to be like the last time where I was devastated. You chose a medium option. I'm not sure how that one came up to be your favorite, apart from the military bit. I'm just glad, I'm also very glad that Democrats didn't win because, well, they cheated. Labour from the UK sent over to the USA 100 staff to campaign for Democrats, which was technically legal, but the question is moral. And it was in vain. So that is a whole bunch of Labour. For context, they sent 100 people, each one would have spent more than $1,000, so that's hundreds of grand that Labour has wasted. I wonder what their big secret agenda was and all that. Okay, because I thought Republicans were medium, Democrats were awful. But as it is now, I'm not angry. Next point. A lot of people are moaning that the USA is a duopoly with two parties having every advantage over all the others. And I don't think that's true at all, because in the USA you have Ballotpedia, a very useful website which tells you very clearly whatever state you're in, these are all your options, and each of those options will probably, at least they should do, have a website. Another useful source is the Washington Post. Without them, this video would have been nowhere near as good, because I looked at a bunch of sources for the results, and none of them provided as much detail or was as interesting as the Washington Post. So this is not a sponsor. Think of it as a credit. If you don't have a computer, then borrow a computer or find a good enough newspaper. Some will be better than others. You want one that covers all the parties and one that is not biased. If you can't do that, find a library and see what they can do for you. A library will have a computer for you. They should do. So when deciding who to vote for, you know where to go to check all your options. And when you finally get to the voting station on election day, you have your voting paper, and all the candidates are written there for the most part. Some of them you have to write in, and all their names are written in the same size. You can see the whole list. You don't have to turn the page or unfold anything. Nothing's written in invisible ink. They're all there for you. So if there's a party you didn't know of this time, you now know to look them up for next time. You've got what you need. And every single vote, for Republican or Democrat, represents someone who could have chosen anything for the most part. That's not the case in New York and a few others where you only have 2 or 3 options. But in most states, you've got a big bunch. So all those votes represent someone who could have chosen any of them and made their choice, whatever that choice may be. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, if you vote for someone, they're your favorite party. There's a lot of people moaning about tactical voting, or, as I like to call it, not tactical or strategic at all voting. But whenever you write down your vote on the real election day on the voting paper, all you write down is 1 mark next to the name you want. You don't write down your reasons, or your plan, or your backstory. So as far as I am concerned, as far as your country is concerned, as far as your legacy is concerned, and as far as the election is concerned, if you vote for someone, they were your favorite. And one day, maybe, my video on not tactical or strategic at all voting will happen. But I'm not promising any more election videos. Not after this year. 1, they just take way so much time to make. And 2, I'm losing sight of the point. Next point. Okay. This is not me trying to lecture you. Like I said, I'm not angry. I'm not trying to teach the USA a lesson in this video. Instead, I have a question. There's just a magpie walking over there. That's what distracted me. Back to focus. It's flown away. Back to focus. I have a question from me to you. You decide the answer. USA, out of these two parties who you by far prefer against any alternative, what do you see in them? Why? Why do you hate the others so much more than you hate these? Why do you love these so much more than you hate the others? What is it that you prefer about them? What about them gets in a good place with you, and what about the others gets in a bad place with you? Why? What do you see in them? You give the answer. What are your reasons? What's your favorite thing about them? Why do you like them so much? Before I continue, we all make mistakes, and it's important that we fix them. So as an only human, I'm going to correct some of mine on NATO's triple election. I said Robert F. Kennedy was only an option in a few states. Yes, he did drop out of some, but nowhere near as many as I thought. I said it was impossible for him to win, but I was dead wrong. He had a big, valid chance to win. He was an option in more than enough states. I'm just glad I encouraged USA to check him out and maybe vote for him anyway. So I didn't mess up too bad. When I was reviewing UK Greens, I gave them a bad point for planning to build 500,000 new homes, which was incompatible with their plan for lots more green spaces. In particular, a green space within 5 minutes walk from home for everyone in UK. But new information has come to me. UK has enough brownfield space, that's old buildings that need to come down or be renovated, to build 1.4 million homes. So Green have plenty of space to do both. So minus one bad point from them. But they won with me either way, so this mess up wasn't so bad either. I predicted a 59% chance France would send soldiers to Ukraine. Then I thought they would wait until after the Olympics so they could get the full benefit of them first. And since then, nothing. Either we got the 41% or I was wrong. That was disappointing. Because there are so many candidates in USA election, there was no way I was able to research and review and create a video for them all. So here is an apology to all the candidates who didn't make it onto my sonar. A lot of the parties that didn't win had some good causes, and since they had such epically devastating defeats, I think it's polite to give a little condolences, RIP, to all those causes that the USA is against. To Julian Assange, the USA thinks you deserve to stay in prison and journalism should become a crime. I am not with them, but that is the choice that the USA has come to. I'm sorry it turned out this way. It wasn't my fault. To Puerto Rico, the will of the USA is overwhelmingly that you deserve to stay under USA control with no liberty for your own. I'm not with them. I had no say in it. I'm sorry that's what's happening. And there's a few other causes. Every time the USA pays tax from now on, remember, you had a party, the Libertarians, that were going to drop it and eventually abolish it. Every time you send someone to school because you've got no choice, the Constitution Party was going to make school optional. And all of the other things that we could list from the face-off video that are not going to happen because the USA was against them. As it turns out, the USA is a very imprisoned journalist and control islands without giving them any say in it. That's the kind of country that the USA has overwhelmingly decided to be by far. So, you have my sympathy. Another note. This is a word mistake that a lot of people make. I haven't made this mistake, but a lot of people have, so let's go ahead and teach everyone better. Now I'm going to teach you a lesson. A lot of people say liberal to describe a Democrat. This is wrong because there actually is a Liberal Party that's separate. Their presidential candidate was someone called R.D.L.Q. So a liberal and a Democrat are not the same thing. A lot of people use the word conservative to describe whatever it is they're trying to describe. Sometimes it's Republicans, I think. As it happens, there actually is a real party in the USA with the name Conservative. Their presidential candidate was a guy called Vermin Supreme. That's an interesting name you've got there, Mr. Supreme. Can I call you Vermin? So now that you know better, let's stop making that mistake. In case any of you had some questions for me. You judged UK Liberal Democrats on their past with the Whigs and Liberals, but you let USA Republicans off the hook for their past with the Whigs, National Republicans, and Democratic Republicans. Why treat them so different? This is a question I also asked myself. To answer it, I dug a little deeper for the details. Recap. Democratic Republicans broke into National Republicans, then they merged with new ones to create Whigs. Then, the Whigs broke into pieces and one of those pieces merged with new ones to make Republicans. This is the part where the difference is. When a divide and merge happen together, what was the original is now destroyed. The cycles that the Whigs had were broken. The new ones didn't continue the cycle of the old Whigs, they started a new cycle with defectors. Compare it to Liberal Democrats. Whigs broke, but the liberal piece of them was still carrying the legacy of what they left behind. When they merged with Social Democrats, in 1988 I think, the Social Democrats joined them and made an allegiance with the liberal cycles that were passed on from the Whigs. If liberals had broken down and only a piece of them had merged with Social Democrats, then my conclusion on them would be different. I am aware that there was such a thing as continuing Social Democrats that were wiped out. They disbanded in 1990, I think. But that was only a result of the merge. Some didn't want to merge. It wasn't the same thing as standing against slavery, leaving, finding new friends, then making a new party and having a civil war. What this means is, if I was reviewing Whigs, I would be judging them on National Republicans, because the bits chose to join the party, and I will treat them as one of them, instead of the new bits joining the best exceptional bits that defected, in which case I would be judging them on the best exceptional bits of the defectors. And if I was reviewing National Republicans, I would be judging them on Democratic Republicans. Leaving or not, they have a history in there. That history will be held to them. The real question is, why didn't I judge Democrats on Democratic Republicans? Good point. Because I forgot? So let's add 6 terms to what Democrats are guilty of. As for Robert F. Kennedy, should I judge him on the party he has a history in? My logic applies to parties. When we talk about individual people, we'll be here forever. So let's judge individual people individually as they come. Some people say, by proportional representation, that's the amount of total votes for a party compared to others, where everyone's vote counts nationally, instead of only the dominant of each vote zone, never mind how bare the win was. The proportional representation UK result was more like this, and we should have this in mind when reviewing UK. I say, nonsense! The UK uses first past the post. I will review the decision it makes with such. If they decided their parliament with a table tennis tournament, I would review the choice they come to with that, and so on. Proportional representation doesn't even give a very good answer, and even if it did, That's not how federations work. What can I say to all the weak, absolutely failed parties that, well, to say they failed this election is an understatement on top of an understatement. To all the very, very, very big losers of this election, some thoughts for you. You lost. Like, so much. The USA doesn't want you. I think they're wrong with some of you, but the USA very, very, very much hates you. I don't know why. I don't know why you're worse than Democrats. But that is the decision that the USA has come to against my suggestion. What should you do about it? That's the more important question. Once we've beaten ourselves up, we need to... after we've been beaten up by the election, we need to think positively, what are we going to do about it? Because that's the only bit that's actually going to help you achieve anything. I mean, whining about your losses never helped anyone do anything. No, you need to now think, how are we going to fix this for next time? That is the part that helps you achieve anything. Historically speaking, normally when a new party grows, it's because they merged. That's how the Whigs showed up. That's how the Republicans showed up. Can it happen again? Absolutely, it can happen again. If it can happen twice, it can happen 3 times. And on that note, with a lot of you, I find there's a bit of a... The metaphor I'd use to describe a lot of elections is the difference between a buffet and a restaurant. I always would rather go to a buffet if I could choose, because with a buffet, you can take as much or as little, or all, or none, or not all of what's available, but all that can go on your plate, of whatever options you want. But in a restaurant, you have a bunch of options, and each one comes with some good and bad things, and there's always that one bad thing that just ruins what would be on the meal. Not the case in a buffet, because in a buffet you can mix and match all the good bits together and forget about all the bad bits, leave them for someone else. And in this election, and in all elections, there's a lot of parties that are like the restaurants. There's always something that ruins them, but they've got good bits in there. But what I'd rather is if we could have all the different plans they've got and pick and choose between each different plan. So if you could merge and do the merge right, then you could get a party really, really special. Think about this. The tax plan of Libertarians, the Constitution Party's plan for school and foreign aid, the Green Party's plan for Puerto Rico and historical corrections, the health and ecosystem and pollution and toxin plan of Robert F. Kennedy, and a few little bits from Claudia De La Cruz, all of them mixed into one party, you've got yourself something very, very special. And I think the USA would be a fool to give that the same defeat that it gave you in this election. It's a question of merge or be wiped out before you even rose. Next point. I'm not myself a democracy fan. I've got my reasons. I think it doesn't work, and I've got better ideas. But I put so much work into my vote this year. And then there's so many people out there who put so much praise on democracy. They say they love it. They say it's everything to them. They say, my ancestors died for my right to vote. But then, as it turns out, their ancestors died for their right to screw up their vote and waste all of our futures. Because they show up, their mind's made 10 years ago, and there's no convincing them. Doesn't matter what the campaign says. And no one disrespects democracy more than democracy fans. I'm seeing the trend of the more someone likes democracy, the less seriously they take it, and the more someone does not like democracy, the more respect they show it. Explain that. Where's the logic in that? next point. I hinted at this earlier. What is the point of me putting an effort into all these face-off videos and all these election reaction videos, and in who I'm going to vote for, when really it's decided anyway? What I wanted to do in future years was a UK election face-off video that had played similar and the Northern Ireland options and the SNP and maybe some more, but would it achieve a thing? One of my relatives is Northern Irish, and I asked her the question I had at the election results. If Northern Ireland's choices are nothing similar to the mainland's choices, why don't they just get independence? And she explained that they do want independence, and the rest of the UK would be very happy for them to get independence, but the only reason that they don't is because all these parties in Northern Ireland cannot cooperate with each other. If they could, then they could get independence a lot easier than Scotland is trying to get it. What the hell is up with that? If some of them did turn out to be a lot better than the others, and they did get a lot more support than the others, and they could get some dominance over the others, then Northern Ireland could get the independence that it wants. And so I was hoping maybe I could do my research and then make a face-off video to say which ones are the best, which ones are the worst, and give them some help. But I don't think I can convince anyone to do anything. I couldn't even convince anyone in the UK to vote Green, or anyone in the USA to vote... or anyone in the USA to vote Libertarian. Do they make up their minds before anything? Someone else once told me that if the Labour UK candidates were all dogs, Labour still would have won the election. And what I'm wondering is, if the USA Libertarian Party was destined to win World War III, triple the economy, cure AIDS, cure placenta previa, and liberate the Caribbean and Arabs in the name of science and equality, would the Libertarian Party still have lost as dramatically as it did? Because they've made such a dramatic defeat. Many of these parties have made such a dramatic defeat, and they need such a dramatic change in order to fix it. As I said earlier, I think they should merge. That's one valid option if they do it right. But if the democracy fans put in the least effort, then what's the point of trying to be a good party? And what's the point of a popular party trying to not be terrible? Is there any logic in it? Is there any competition in it? Is an election over before it started? One thing's for sure, my morale is very, very low. Is there any point in me making more videos? I was going to, in 2028, to make a USA election face-off for the parties that I missed this time. And I was hoping that in the next elections, my process would have improved, and I might be able to update a lot of my old conclusions into something even better. Am I wasting my time for that? For example, I suggested that the UK votes Green. A lot of people did vote Green, but because Green didn't win in their area, their vote didn't count anywhere. If that's not a defeat, I don't know what is. So if I can't find the answer for myself, then it'd be really nice if any of you could tell me, what's the point?
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this or found it helpful, then click like and comment so I know to make more of this. If you want to see more, click my channel name or icon for more. I will see you next time.
and subscribe to survive.